This video outlines the steps to add or modify a diagnosis or problem to the patient record from within PowerChart. A diagnosis is an acute problem being addressed during this patient encounter. A problem is a chronic issue that the patient may have. Both diagnoses and problems are displayed within the problem list section of the patient record. It is really important that when we're adding any conditions to the problem list that they appear under the correct heading of either a diagnosis or a problem to make sure that our clinical documentation is correct and accurate. After entering the patient record, the first step is to select your M page. I'll be using the admission M page for this video. From the component menu within the M page, click on Problem List, and that will take you to the Problem List section. As this patient is a newly admitted patient and they haven't been admitted to the hospital before, we have an alert that the patient doesn't have any chronic problems documented on the record, and we're prompted to either document that the patient has no chronic problems or to add a problem. If we wanted to get rid of this notification, we could just click on Dismiss. In the problem list table, you can see that the patient does have a problem which has been added as a this visit problem. And this is a problem of being at risk of venous thromboembolus, and this has been automatically added to the patient record as a result of completing the VTE risk assessment where the patient was identified as being at risk of VTE. We will now go through the steps of 1. How to add a diagnosis, 2. Add a problem, 3. Add a diagnosis and problem, and 4. How to modify a problem. Starting with adding a diagnosis. As a diagnosis is a this visit problem, we need to have that reflected within the problem list. So in the Add As drop-down, we would select this visit for a diagnosis. We would then start by typing in the name of the diagnosis, and as we type, the drop-down has suggestions based on what we're typing in. Click on the condition and it will be added as a this visit problem. To add a chronic problem, we need to click the Add As drop-down and select Chronic from the list. We then would start typing the name of the chronic problem into the search box, and we would select the condition from the drop-down menu. And the problem has now been added as a chronic problem. For conditions which are both chronic and related to the inpatient admission, we would select the this visit and chronic option. And again, we would start typing the name of the condition into the field, select the term, and it will now be added as both a this visit and a chronic problem. To modify a problem, we would simply click on the problem itself. It opens up a pop-up window to the right on the right-hand side of the screen, and we would select the Modify button. The Modify Diagnosis pop-up window opens up, and we can now make our modification. So I'm just going to change the diagnosis from a working diagnosis to an admitting diagnosis, and I'm going to click OK. If we refresh the screen, that just ensures that the modification we've made is updated and that we are seeing the most up-to-date version of the patient record. And that is how you add or modify a problem or diagnosis.